I'm Steve Lascalzo, and this is The Way. You're listening to the October 2024 This is The Way podcast, Star Wars News Update. November 12th of this year will mark the 5th anniversary of Disney+, and so also the 5th anniversary of this podcast. If you haven't been listening since the beginning, you might not know that at the time, well, we called this Catcher and Keeper. I named it Catcher and Keeper. It had to do with me and my friend Tim, and I was a catcher and he was a goalkeeper. Well, terrible name, but at the time, nobody could have known that there was going to be this great catchphrase, "This is the way." Oh, except for the people who were involved in creating the show, of course. Now, the instant I heard that phrase, I registered that as the name of the podcast, and moving forward, all episodes were rebranded. I think it was a genius move on my part, and it was only because I was up early watching the show as it first streamed. There is not going to be a big celebration planned, at least by me, especially since that first season, it was with a couple of friends joining me on the podcast, Tim and Andy. They have since quit. When I was choosing the date for the debut of the original podcast, the preview edition, so to speak, I was thinking of exactly this kind of scenario. I was thinking in the future, I wanted to pick a date that would be easy to remember. So it's not only the 5th anniversary for Disney+, it's also the anniversary of the debut of The Mandalorian and this podcast. Now, was I sure that the show was going to be a hit? Absolutely not. I was just excited at what I had seen and heard about the new show that was coming out. I knew it was going to be set in the then mysterious time period between Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens. Now, I hoped that we would eventually see Luke. And boy, that second season finale was something else. The show preview and episode number 1 was posted on the 12th of November back in 2019. Ooh, what a time that was. Here's a little more trivia for you, though. The news update podcasts did not start that year, nor did they start in 2020. I began these, the news update podcasts, in order to keep people from thinking, hey, this guy has stopped podcasting in between shows. The first one came in March of 2021 with podcast episode 32. Hey, now we're at episode 160. It's time now to update you on what's been happening with Star Wars since the last news update podcast. Skeleton Crew is coming December 3rd with a 2-episode debut on Disney+. The marketing of the show is picking up now, more magazine interviews and photo shoots. But there's another way that we've traditionally learned things like character names that doesn't have anything to do with those magazines. Remember, Ahsoka, we saw a Lego set that revealed the name of Merrick. And then there was the Onyx Cinder Lego set for this show, Skeleton Crew. Well, recently a set of bag clips of all things has given us a few new names, and I'll get to those in a moment, but first, let's review some of the names that we already knew. At least one of them we've already seen, and recently, too. So, Marty Matulis is reprising his role as one of Gorian Shard's gang from The Mandalorian Season 3. He's back. Remember when that Nikto pirate fled the dogfighting above Navarro in his ship? That was Vane. He is back now with a new group of pirates. His new pirate captain is named Brutus. He's the one that appears to be Shistavanen, the werewolf-like character, voiced by Frank Tatasciore, and the movements are performed by Stephen O'Young. We learned names of many of the pirates. Remember, one of them was Gunter, played by Jaleel White.
Did I do that?
There are also named pirates, Pax and Chaelt, or Chaelt. Chaelt? I don't know. It appears from photos there's going to be even more space pirates for us to learn because not all of them were named in the caption. It's the Entertainment Weekly and People magazine photo shoots and articles that we heard more about the protagonists. We know the adult human force user seen in the trailer is played by Jude Law, and he's called Jod Naywood. That's not new. But I'm just wondering, is he one of Luke's future students as a force user, or is he, kind of a dark side guy? Or something in between? We had also heard about the kids central to the story. We knew that Neil was the name of the Ortolan-like alien that we see in the trailer. He will be played by Robert Timothy Smith. That's the one that says, like what? When responding to the human that's called Whim.
Don't you ever want to do anything exciting? Like what?
Played by Ravi Cabot Conyers. Fun side note, he voices little Antonio Madrigal in Disney's Encanto movie. There's KB, who has the cybernetic viewer over the eyes, played by Kiriana Crotter. The girl named Fern is played by Ryan Kira Armstrong. She's been in Anne with an E as Minnie Mae Barry and was young Antonia Dreykov in Marvel's Black Widow. There's also a droid, SM33 or SME, voiced by Nick Frost. The online product listing revealing those names has been removed. The bag clips listing has been removed. It's a nice lesson, though. Young people, if you're listening, the internet is forever, because we can still see that listing. It appears that Neil has a younger sibling because there is a second, even younger or smaller figure. It's an Ortolan-like alien dressed like Neil, but its name is Jorka. Then there's the owl-like character that in the scene in the trailer descends from that elevated seat in the starship. We have the human male is called Whim, but the owl, or the owl-like character, is called Kim, K-I-M. So I wonder if there's some sort of connection, beyond similar sounding names. Books and shows usually try to avoid confusing the consumer of the media, or they try to intentionally draw a parallel when they're naming the characters. So owls are usually wise characters. We'll have to see if this new character played by Kim, or called Kim, plays to that character trope, or maybe they play against it. Maybe the owl is kind of a bumbling goof or something like that. I have no idea. It's what's one of the things that's pretty exciting about this show is that it could be really great. There is also a name for Whim's speeder. Apparently, its name is Chase, so maybe it's a droid-piloted ship or something like a speeder. I don't know. I don't know why it's called Chase, but maybe it's the name of the droid in the machine that's called Chase, but the bag clip listing said Whim's speeder Chase or something like that. So we'll just have to see. Some people might consider that these character names are spoilers. But look, this is nothing you're not going to see on cast lists. And as the show gets closer and closer, you're going to see interviews of actors. You're going to find these things out. This is not a spoiler. No, spoilers are reserved when we're talking about plot points. And right now, we're not sharing any here.
Yeah? Good.
Empire Magazine also had an article this month with a number of the directors for the show. David Lowery, Jake Schreier, Bryce Dallas Howard, and Lee Isaac Chung all went on the record with the magazine. Only the Daniels, Kwan, and Shiner were unavailable. Some of the things talked about were generic, run-of-the-mill, this was exciting, and we're all glad to be a part of this. But remember how I said that Neil and Jorka were Ortolan-like? The Max Rebo kind of thing? Well, John Watts says, technically, this is a new alien. They're both blue-ish, but he specifically mentions how people debate if Max Rebo was playing with his feet or his arms, and how there's a whole debate that he doesn't want to get into. So, technically, this is a new species of alien. Dave Lowery also mentioned how he has a love for some of the obscure aliens in A New Hope and Return of the Jedi, like the Devaronians, Amanaman, Pruneface, and all of the directors talked about Star Wars in, okay, I'd say it's the right way, Not the way that recent failures of showrunners have been discussing the show like we want to reinvent things and we want to change things from the past. Honestly, if you want to feel better about how Star Wars might be turned back from the dark side, this Empire article certainly does something to help you regain some hope. I mean, I really think they've learned a lesson, or somebody in marketing has said, look, we got to stop talking about how we're changing things. Let's talk about the how we're doing things the right way. And one of the other interesting tidbits learned in the article is about the teak species that's first seen in the Battle for Endor TV show. I mean, it's making an appearance in Lowry's episode, and I think it's a practical effect. Those are all like the kinds of buzzwords that the showrunners and the actors and the people working on the show, those are the kinds of things they should be talking about. Not, hey, we want to outdo the Phantom Menace duel scene, or we are changing problematic things from the past about the Jedi. I think they've really learned a lesson here, at least in the marketing. We'll have to see how the show goes.
So you've given up on hiding it?
How much are we worrying about?
With all due respect to Skeleton Crew, the Andor series really is the most anticipated show on the slate for me and many others. And rumors have it set for next year, but there is a note that makes me think it will be coming specifically next May. You see, Star Wars Celebration is set for Japan from April 18th to the 20th, and Mads Mikkelsen is now scheduled to make an appearance for Lucasfilm. He was great as Galen Erso in Rogue One, but I don't think you bring the guy all the way to Japan without knowing, hey, he's making an appearance in promotion of the show. Yeah, I know. Mikkelsen had previously said, Disney hadn't called me, I'm not involved, but I think since his brother played Grand Admiral Thrawn, and Andor is a literal lead up to Rogue One in the same way Rogue One is a lead up to A New Hope, I think there's a relationship there between Lucasfilm and Mikkelsen's. And if he's involved, maybe others like Bodhi Rook are involved. Riz Ahmed played him. Maybe he will make an appearance at Star Wars Celebration as well. Now, Rogue One starts several years before the events of A New Hope. And if you remember, Galen, Lyra, and Jyn were discovered in hiding by their former friend Orson Krennic. That was when Jyn was a small child. Then Jyn was rescued by Saw Gerrera. She struck out on her own after being abandoned on a mission by him. And I think that leaves a lot, like maybe there's an early season episode. Remember, each successive year is a set of 3 episodes, an arc in its own. Maybe we see Galen involved early on and then later on as well. There's got to be some handoff, right, of the Death Star plans to Bodhi Rook, and he's going to give them to the rebels. We hear Galen in that. Maybe we even get to see Galen recording the holo message to his daughter. Oh my gosh. How awesome would that be? I mean, some of the actors praised Tony Gilroy's writing so highly, it seems impossible for the show to live up to the hype. But that's just off the top of my head. I mean, I got this strange feeling this could go down as one of the best Star Wars projects since the prequels, because these are the kinds of little nuggets that you give to the fans. They're not fan service. It makes sense to the story, so you include it in the story. And I don't know. I haven't seen the scripts. I mean, we already know we're going to see the capture and turn of K2SO. There's so much of this story that is exciting to see unfold. The acting in Andor is superb. I mean, the story and the writing has been top notch. You know, the sunrise I'll never see speech from...
What is my sacrifice? I'm condemned to use the tools of my enemy to defeat them. I burn my decency for someone else's future. I burn my life to make a sunrise that I know I'll never see.
Stellan Skarsgård's Luthen Rail. I mean, this may be the best thing that Disney's ever done. And I know, The Mandalorian is first and foremost in my mind. The first and second seasons probably were the most enjoyable for me to watch, personally, week to week. But Andor, you cannot deny how good this show was. And when you compare it just with itself or its other Star Wars shows, it is by far the best. It's the best written, best acted. As it gets closer to April, May, I'm sure we're going to get a release date, but this is very exciting news for me.
I have to play their game.
I don't have as much to say about Star Wars games, but there are some notes. I mean, Star Wars Outlaws is out. It only sold about 1 million copies, and I know, 1 million sounds like a lot, but for a AAA video game, that's not very good. StarWarsNews.net observed, maybe it's perhaps the less than stellar reviews dooming the game, but I don't know too many people that look at scores as much as they do watch gameplay, and then they listen to the way the game is marketed, and I didn't see a big push from Star Wars getting, content creators to make videos and things. Even Lego Star Wars had more marketing, I think, done than Outlaws. And I personally, if anyone calls your game woke, whether it actually is or not, you are on the precipice of a big slide. I mean, was it a claim? I don't know, but there was some chatter about uglifying the main character, making the main character who was a female less attractive. Do you have to make every female character attractive? No, but if it's your main character, and you're going to be seeing it a lot in the cutscenes, maybe you don't uglify it. Maybe you just leave it the way it is. Many of these game companies have suffered because they are so afraid to market like the games of old did. Because, there were some problematic issues in the gaming community. To some, making the games is like telling them that everything needs changing, though. But the pendulum, I think, has swung too far in the other direction. And it's mostly because liberals give it a push. There's a lot of problems right now with the kinds of people who are making these games not connecting or identifying with the people who are playing them. And they're calling them out for not spending their own money on the games. First it was like, if you don't like it, don't buy it. And now it's, well, because you don't buy it because you're racist or, misogynist or something. It's just so dumb. The game, Star Wars Outlaws, will be released on Steam on November 21st, but it's already out on other platforms. And at least it's not being shelved like the tremendous failure that Concord was. So there's still plans for downloadable additional content for Star Wars Outlaws in this winter. This January, another LucasArts classic console game is getting a makeover and re-release. Jedi Power Battles was first released for PlayStations in April of 2000 in North America, and later in the same year on Sega Dreamcast, remember that? And then the following year for, remember, Nintendo's Game Boy Advance. Aspire Media is updating some of the graphics, making it, fit the modern console gameplay style, and it will have a wide re-release next year on Nintendo Switch, PS4, PS5, Windows, PC, Xbox One, and Xbox Series X and S. All 10 original levels and training modes will be there, plus a cheat mode that is immediately available to all players for things like Big Head mode and 13 playable characters and power-ups that you had to unlock or weren't even available for the old game. The story of the game loosely follows the events of the Phantom Menace, and it combines kind of some elements of a top-down shooter, or saber swinger, I guess, with side-scrolling. If you'd like to take a look and you don't understand what I'm talking about, you can find gameplay on YouTube. There's also a preview of the updated game as well. You can visit that on YouTube as well. You can just find it by searching for the game title. But you can also visit the October 10th article on StarWarsNews.net for a embedded video from YouTube.
It's R5-D4 and the Power Droid.
So,
And here's Greedo, Han Solo, and Walrus Man.
you've had it now, Solo.
Okay, collectors, there is a Transformers and The Mandalorian collaboration coming next spring, available for pre-order right now. The price tag is a little hefty. It's almost $55. I think it's $54.97 for a 7.5-inch Transformer that can be converted into an N1 starfighter in 37 steps. When I first saw it, I gotta admit, I was a little upset that Hasbro is pushing Disney and Lucasfilm around, like insisting, hey, we have to have this kind of mashup because it doesn't make sense. It doesn't exist in the universe. But I gotta admit, I do love Transformers, or I loved them when I was a kid, and I saw it on the page. It's available for pre-order on Walmart.com right now. It doesn't ship until spring of 2025, so you can't have it under your tree for Christmas. But it does kind of look a little cool.
Didn't you ever learn not to touch things that don't belong to you?
Okay, Optimus, jump in now!
Optimus Prime, where?
Hasbro also revealed some more traditional Star Wars only toys in conjunction with New York Comic Con. From the Ahsoka streaming series, we have a vintage collection Howler and Sabine Wren on Peridia. And she's got Ezra's lightsaber and 2 blasters. The Howler has a saddle. Now, honestly, this is a pass for me. Maybe if you need to have a Howler for Balin's skull, but it's going to ship summer 2025. And the pre-order is listing it at $39.99. I think you can already have gotten Sabine Wren. Maybe you don't have a Sabine Wren and you missed out on a pre-order or a past figure and they're no longer available. Then I guess that makes it more of a consideration. But traditionally, Black Series are usually the more expensive $24.99 price points. But this is $39.99 does not seem like a great deal. There's much cooler and cheaper characters available, like Hoth Battle Gear Imperial Snowtrooper. It also ships summer 2025, but it's only got a $16.99 for the vintage collection figure, and it comes with the cool cowl, cape, and a blaster. Again, you're only getting 1 character there versus the 2, but I think it looks a lot cool. And there's a weird one in the vintage collection, Dr. Cornelius Evazan. He was the guy outlawed in several different systems, according to his conversation with Luke in A New Hope.
I have the death sentence on 12 systems.
I'll be careful.
You'll be dead.
Also $16.99 available now for pre-order, shipping next spring. There is a Black Series Clone Commander Cody with white and yellow armor, removable helmet and blaster, ships in spring 2025, can be pre-ordered now for $24.99. It appears that it comes in special packaging that's associated with, I guess, the 20th anniversary of Revenge of the Sith. It looks like a blister pack and not a box, but it says it's a Black Series edition character. The real interesting part is there's a continuation of the trend set with the Acolyte, where new characters, not just legacy characters in advance of a new show, new characters are getting figures.
Are you serious?
There's a Black Series Jod Nanawood from the Skeleton Crew series announced. It's not available for pre-order yet. There's a lot of characters that were announced at Comic-Con, but not yet available. It's going to be $24.99, and there's a Whim at Atten, KB at Atten, and a Neil at Atten, which means Atten, Attin, it's got to be the planet, their home planet or something, or maybe just the town, the place name from the show. There's also a Fern figure, does not say Fern at Atten, by the way, in the Black Series. There's another location leak thanks to the pirate Captain Brutus, Port Borgo. So, Atten and Port Borgo, 2 place names, I think, that are going to be in the new show. All those Black Series characters are all $24.99. Not yet available, though. Remember, they're just pre-order. Well, they're not even pre-order. There's no shipping date announced, and they're not even available for pre-order on the Hasbro website as of the recording of this podcast. There's also a vintage collection, Jod Nanawood, for $16.99. So vintage collection for $16.99, Black Series at $24.99. That's also coming. That's also not available yet. Then there's some prequel and Clone Wars characters that were announced coming in the Black and Vintage series for Hasbro. Prequel figures in the Black Series are Sebulba. He does not come with his pod or chair or anything like that. Then there are Jedis Luminara Unduli and Shak Ti. Those 3, each $24.99. And as of October 30th, those are available for pre-order on Hasbro Pulse.
Let's go!
In the Vintage collection, there's a Jedi Legends version of Obi-Wan that resembles Ewan McGregor. There's an Ahsoka character, Lieutenant Callahan, did not figure significantly in the show. And then there's Bounty Hunter Aura Singh, and she just had a cameo in The Phantom Menace. And then there's a Yord Fandar figure from The Acolyte, not with a removable shirt. All of those come next year and are all priced at $16.99. And then there's one more Black Series figure than it was announced. For some reason, this one's a little bit more expensive. So instead of $24.99 like usual, you could get a Clone Wars version of Savage Opress for $33.99 coming summer 2025. But it's just a Black Series version of Savage Opress, and it wasn't particularly impressive.
Just one more thing.
We do have some Disney Parks news this month. The House of Mouse is going to charge more for annual passes, and they are also announcing a new way to charge you for Lightning Lane as well. This month, I'm going to talk about the Lightning Lane. Next month, I'll talk about those changes and updates to the pass pricing. So, first off, last weekend, we saw peak prices for surge pricing that's associated with a Lightning Lane, and I'm just talking about the multi-pass and single pass. Maybe it's because it was the last weekend before Halloween, but Magic Kingdom was charging $35 per upgrade on Saturday. That is a high. I think it probably dropped down to about $27 on Sunday, but still $35 per ticket for each upgrade. That's crazy. Epcot reached a high on October 25th at $26. Animal Kingdom and Hollywood Studios did not reach their park highs. They had $19 and $27 pricing this past weekend. Animal Kingdom's record high was $22, so $19 isn't too far off that. Hollywood Studios' current high is $29, but it's going to reach a new record this coming weekend, after Halloween, with a $32 price on November 2nd. Single pass prices per ride were also high, but just $1 below those peaks. Starting October 30th, however, guests have a new option. Lightning Lane Premier. The new option costs from $129 to $449 per person. So that's per ticket. $449 per person per ticket, or as low as $129. I'm guessing for Animal Kingdom. I'm not 100% sure, but it only grants a one-time access to every attraction that offers a Lightning Lane queue. So one access, not unlimited. $129 to $449 per person. Now, one access, that's important, right? So WDW News Today's website did a comparison that I looked at. And I don't want to go through all of the parks. I'm just going to talk about one here. So since this is a Star Wars podcast, let's talk about Hollywood Studios. You know, that gives you the most Star Wars for your buck. The current Lightning Lane multi-pass at the park is about $20 per ticket. Rise of the Resistance is a $20 single ticket. There are 4 attractions that use the Lightning Lane, but with the Lightning Lane Premier, it says there are 14 listed attractions. I'm guessing events that come with a $269 Premier Pass fee, remember, per ticket. I'm guessing they're also talking about those events, you know, and shows and things like that. I'm not sure why there's that discrepancy, but let's talk about this. In the case of Hollywood Studios, the average price per attraction per person would be $10 with the Lightning Lane multipass and single pass purchases. That's according to WDW News Today. So they're only talking about those 4 that are listed on the multipass. The Premier Pass for the same rides is going to cost you $19.21 per person per attraction. And how about this? If you had 10 people and then you purchased the base version of a VIP tour and everybody chipped in, it would cost you an additional $22.50. So in that case, you would be going around with a costume cast member. You'd even have better service. I guarantee that with a cast member by your side. And you would pay almost as much at just over $19 and wait in Lightning Lanes. So now, yes, that would mean that you would need 10 people that were willing to make that price commitment $315, I think, per person for the VIP tour. But it's just an observation that with either of those, you're paying almost or more than double the price of just paying extra with the multi-pass and the single pass. Per person, it's a total of $40 for the multi and single pass to the Rise of the Resistance, but it's $269 for the Premier Pass, $315 per person for a VIP tour. This is getting crazy. Now, in some cases, it might be easier, more convenient, or maybe it is even a better price. In some cases, I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm not looking at every single park. But you really need to do your research. Don't just assume that the Premier Pass is going to give you more bang for your buck.
Trust your instincts.
Next month, I'm going to talk about the update to pricing on annual passes, the Sorcerer, Pirate, Pixie Ducks tiers, and also the price per ticket per day to all the parks.
I think we can let him off with the warning this time.
Okay. If you think I've missed something or disagree with me, send me email to thisisthewaypodcast@gmail.com. Perhaps you want to send me a little message in advance of our 12th or our 5th anniversary on the 12th. If you want to interact with This The Way podcast, please follow our links, linktr.ee/thisisthewaypod. We've got an Instagram link, a Facebook website, Twitter handle, X, whatever you want to call it. So interact with us. It's really fallen off of late. I've tried not to be too political. I've tried not to be too negative, but maybe it's too late for any of that. I hope not. And like I said, I am very excited about the upcoming content from Lucasfilm and Disney with Skeleton Crew and Andor. Those are two shows that I have high hopes for. Skeleton Crew, have no idea. But I really am positive, and I think, positive, not sure, positive as in I'm really hopeful for this show. I think Goonies in space kind of a thing, or Goonies in Star Wars at least, it'll all depend on how good the kids are at acting, I suppose. And they are fair game if you want to criticize the kids acting, but just if you are one of those people who have been ultra negative on the shows, keep your harshest criticism for the people who are making it and not necessarily the kid actors who are just trying to get their first job. And this could be a great stepping stone for them. So just try to remember that. Like, they're not immune, but let's focus our harshest criticism for the people who actually are making the shows. Leslie Headland deserves every ounce of your criticism and your ridicule, because she is terrible at her job. Don't care about her politics even that much. She's just terrible at her job, and she produced an awful show. It's not all her fault either. People let her make the show, but even if you like The Acolyte, hopefully you were focusing your criticism on the right people, right? But let's think positive. Skeleton Crew coming in December 3rd, with 2 episodes in 2024. Thank you so much for joining me for This Is The Way Podcast's October 2024 news update, episode number 160. I'm your host, Steve Lascalzo. May the Force be with you always.